What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be talking about the gray POWERPHASE Yeezys and whether you should be selling them or holding them. And now in this video it might be a little more complex than my usual hold or sell guides where I just tell you you should sell or you should hold. This one's going to be a little more in-depth, more regarding when. So before I even get into selling or holding, I would just like to give some props to Kanye West himself, who did promise that anyone who wanted Yeezys would be able to get their hands on some Yeezys. And I can officially say that he has done that. And the reason I'm saying this is, obviously, yes, for the most part, we know that these POWERPHASE Yeezys, they sat on Yeezy Supply for so long, there was no line to check out. You could check out without having to wait in that line, which was actually quite unique to see for once. So, obviously, Yeezy Supply is only Canada and US, so that's not everyone technically, right? What about you guys in the UK? What about Australia? What about any other country that I'm not mentioning, to be honest? Well, you guys could still get Yeezys. So, Kanye West promised you Yeezys. He didn't promise you V2s, guys. He promised you Yeezys. The retail price on the V2s, we all know, is $220. Now, the resale on these POWERPHASEs are, trust me, they're going to be below $220 for at least a long time, a good period of time. So, you could get Yeezys. If you were going to buy the V2s for retail, then you could get these for resale. So, I don't think anyone should be really complaining that they can't get Yeezys anymore, because you guys can get Yeezys, but I get it. I understand. They're not V2s. So that's why you guys should check out my How to Cop guides after this video. I always go really in-depth into the Adidas aspect of it, some really unique tips that I would advocate trying, so you could go ahead and give that a shot. But now I'm going to talk about, why did they sit on Yeezy Supply? Why didn't they just sell out? I mean, they're Yeezys, right? Well, I think the main reason was not only that they released at a weird time, around like 7 in the morning. So some of you guys were wondering, like, hey, what time does Yeezy Supply usually drop? Well, for any shoe like the POWERPHASE that is a little more limited than V2s, it could be any time. In the middle of the night, it could be 7 in the morning. But for V2s, since there's so much supply and there's a lot of demand for them, they want them to sell out, so usually around like 11-ish. But these released at a weird time, 7, so that definitely hindered them selling out. In addition to that, $20 for shipping. Now, I know Adidas charges tax, but still, the $20 for shipping on these was not equivalent to the tax on Adidas, so people didn't want to pay that. And furthermore, the shipping from Yeezy Supply is just terrible. And that's coming from me. I'm on the East Coast, but maybe if someone's in Nevada, in that vicinity, I heard someone comment that the shipping only took like 4 days or so. Well, maybe that's for some of you, but I could speak for everyone in Canada, or at least most of you guys, and everyone who's not on the West Coast. Yeezy Supply probably does take a pretty decent amount of time to ship, and that's not very favorable, not just when you want the shoe to rock, but for resale purposes. The price is going to drop over time. People don't want to have to wait that long. They want to be able to get their pair and sell it right away, or simply just get their pair and wear it right away. People want to get what they paid for as soon as possible. I remember I waited 3 or 4 weeks, it was, when the original POWERPHASEs released. 3 or 4 weeks just to get them shipped. Then another week and a half to get them to my house. That's more than a month to get my shoes that I paid $120 for. It's pathetic. So that's one reason that they didn't sell out on Yeezy Supply, I guess, or 2 reasons, because of terrible shipping. And not only that, I would say it was a pretty easy cop on Adidas. I wasn't crazy about getting these shoes. I did kind of want to get them just so I could bring you guys a review. And you know what, they did kind of grow on me, so I do think I'll be keeping them for personal. And obviously that's a huge point to selling or keeping them. These aren't that bad looking, in my opinion. Resale is not going to be too high. You probably won't profit that much, so I would advocate keeping a pair. Just rock them. They're shoes, man. And they're not bad looking, too. Some of you will disagree. I respect that. No worries, guys. But to move on, Adidas.com, it wasn't that hard of a cop. I wasn't trying too hard. I had 2 tabs open, and that was it on one device. Because I really didn't care if I didn't get them. It was no big deal for me, because if I really wanted them, I could just pay resale. It wouldn't be that much more. I didn't even bother on Yeezy Supply, because I didn't want to pay $140. I was only going to get them if I could pay $120. I'm not taxed where I am. So, on Adidas.com, I got in twice on one device. So that just illustrates the point that it wasn't that hard to cop on Adidas. I guess this depends what country you are in, but my point is there was not a lot of demand for these. Now, there was a lot of demand when the initial release was on the restock or re-release for the Power Phases because all that hype was built up. But now everyone knows that these aren't that hyped anymore, so the demand was driven down. However, we do know, according to Yeezy Mafia, the supply on these were at least a little less than the original Power Phases that released, with the restocks included. So you're wondering, I don't really understand that. If this shoe is more limited, aka there's less supply, why aren't they worth more? Well, it's simply just because there's not enough demand. And who knows, maybe that demand will skyrocket in the future. We don't know that. But I also wanted to mention that it wasn't just the demand on the sites that was decreased. I know this YouTuber, Jay Chizza. He makes some great informative content. If there's any other YouTuber I would recommend for this type of content, it's him. Love Jay Chizza. Love his videos. Check my man out if you ever get a chance. But continuing, he made a video, and I checked it out, where people were lined up for the Power Phase release in store, which was first come, first serve. There were like 7 people lined up. This is for a Yeezy, guys. 7 or 6 people lined up for a Yeezy. That's pretty crazy if you ask me. So let's get to the main point. That's what you've all been waiting for. After learning all this new information, should you sell them now or should you hold them and sell them later on? So like I said, if you like them, wear them. But more importantly, we're talking about resale right now. So right now, the Power Phases are sitting at about, when I'm making this video, I'd say $175 to $190, depending what size they are. And this is just based off of the people who got them in store through consortium stores, in addition to Adidas Confirmed and a couple of other stores. So not a lot of pairs on the market right now, and also not too much demand. There's a lot of asks right now, but there's no bids. So my prediction is when everyone gets their pairs from Adidas, Adidas is usually within a week. I think that they'll drop to 7 days from now, 160 to 170-ish. Now, 14 days from now, which is 2 weeks, I'd say they might bottom out, hit their trough at 150, 160-ish. Now, I could surely be wrong. These are just my predictions. So, what I would advocate, if you get your pair from Yeezy Supply, well, first of all, if you already have your pair right now, sell them. Sell them right now. Unless you're watching this video a little later. But if you're watching this video the day or the day after I'm making it, if you got your pair in person, come on, let's go. Sell them right now. For those of you who ordered on Adidas.com, Adidas.com shipping for the most part doesn't take too long. Occasionally they've taken up to a week. But for the most part on Yeezys, it takes 3 days for them to get to me. So if they get to you within 3-4 days, still sell them. So, if you get them from Adidas and they come within 3, 4, 5 days, I would advocate selling them. However, if you're getting them maybe a little later, a week later to 2 weeks later, and that's if you're like ordering from Yeezy Supply, and even if you get them 3 to 4 weeks later, when the price is bottomed out at like anywhere from even possibly 140. I don't know. That's a possibility. People might just be trying to break even, maybe lose a little off of fees and shipping. So if they're around like anywhere from 140 to 160, hold your pairs, guys. Because first of all, you're going to be losing money. Who wants to lose money? Might as well just hold them, right? So if you're sitting on like 7 pairs, because I know a lot of you guys were able to get tons of pairs, and not all the orders were canceled. So if you're stressing right now, if you're worried, when you see you get all your pairs 2 weeks later when they're sitting at 150, you're realizing, oh shoot, I'm going to lose money or I'm just not going to make a lot of profit, just hold them. Trust me on this. because we saw it with the power phases on the first release, the first restock. They dropped all the way to 160, and there was actually more stock on these, like I stated previously. They dropped all the way to 160, but they bounced back. They're sitting at like, what, 220 now? So my guess is that give them 6 months, maybe 4 months even, they'll bounce back to 180 to 200. And yeah, since they're more limited, and maybe when people see them in hand, they're actually not that bad, people like the look of them, they might even go for more than the original power phases because they're so limited. All we need is for the demand to increase. So, just to conclude it, just to wrap it up, 1, if you have your pairs right now, sell. If you are getting your pairs 4 to 5 days after the release, at most, I would say still sell to get the most money possible. And then if you're getting them later than that, and the price has really, really dropped to a point where you're not making profit anymore, you're actually losing money, or you're just making little to no profit. Excuse me. You're just making little to no profit, hold them. If you ask me, that's the right thing to do. And number 4, if you like them, wear them. They're shoes, guys. You can make them your beaters, you know. They're not that comfortable, but, you know, gray kind of matches everything. So, you guys do what you want. These are just my predictions. If you're new here, feel free to hit that red button. Also, feel free to leave a like if you might have learned something. Maybe you just enjoy this, how awkward I am. You know, feel free to leave a like out of sympathy. And I'll see you around.
And that problem is transport. It takes very, very long, because Kazakhstan is big. Throw transport down the well.